Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where people truly believe they're the center of the universe and everyone else is beneath them. And in today's episode, OP tells a tale about the time he encounters a Karen who calls the cops on him for the most ridiculous reason ever, and she gets taught a lesson, guys. I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your stories to this email right here. So I've seen entitled people many times through my life. I'm a 38-year-old male, and for some backstory, I'm Norse pagan and listen to all kinds of music. Granted, I have more metal music in my library than others. With that out of the way, I'll get to the encounter. On this day, my wife sent me to McDonald's to grab some breakfast. I'm waiting in the drive-thru line for my turn to order, when the song Valhalla Calling starts playing over the speakers in my car. I start jamming out because it's one of my favorite songs to listen to. And the next thing I know, this woman with two elementary-looking kids starts banging on my car window. I roll it down and ask, "Do you need something?" figuring she actually might need someone to help her or something. But no, the lady goes on an entire rant screaming at me, how she doesn't want her kids exposed to devil's music, and I need to stop playing that while they're present, and she just goes off on a whole Christian tangent, saying that people like me are what's wrong with the world. Now, I don't remember a lot of what she said because I have this amazing ability to tune people out. I did notice that she was gearing to take it up a notch, and I just looked her dead in the eye and asked, "Lady, where do you get off thinking that it's okay to insult me and harass me for listening to this type of music?" Amazingly, she shut her mouth, got red in the face, and stormed off. Now, you would think this would be the end of it, but I ended up having to run to the grocery store after this stop. A grocery store in the same parking lot as the McDonald's, and surprise, surprise, of all things, as I'm gathering my items, I pass by a guy talking to his friend. And here's where it gets hilarious. He was going on and on to his friend about how his wife got into a screaming match with someone at McDonald's over playing satanic music. I overheard him saying that he asked her point blank, "Did they start it or did you start it?" And that's when his friend starts laughing and asked him when his divorce was going to go through. But wait, there's more. 3 weeks later, I'm in Walmart picking up a prescription and some summer clothes, as losing weight is fun. I then happen to hear a woman going nuts, screaming at someone for not doing their job. I'm walking towards the screaming because I'm nosy, and something in the back of my mind's like, "You've heard this person before," and I'm trying to figure out where the heck I could have seen or heard this woman. That's when I see the same guy I saw at the grocery store, picking up his kids and carrying them. He looks his wife dead in the eye and says, "You know, this is why you don't have friends, and this is why we're going through this." Talking about the divorce, and I'm gonna take full custody of the kids. He then took his kids and left. Thankfully, the woman didn't recognize me from the McDonald's encounter. She then just plops on the ground after the man left, and it literally looked like her soul just left her body. Now, I should have felt bad, but I really didn't, since everyone could see that she brought it on herself. But yeah, that's my latest Karen encounter. You know what, guys? A lot of you always leave comments like, how in the world do husbands deal with their Karen spouses? And honestly, I don't know. All I know is everyone has a breaking point, and clearly Karen's husband has hit his with her. I also wonder if this woman will even self-reflect to try to become a better, less nasty, less nosy, less entitled person, guys. But the thing about these entitled, often narcissistic people is that they never think they're the issue, so we'll never know. Have I got a story for you? Several years ago, I was working for a chiropractor as a massage therapist. One day, I see someone on my schedule who has an insurance company that I do not take. Now, if I don't take their insurance and I see them anyway, I don't get paid. This kind of error would happen from time to time with new receptionists who didn't know who took what, or new therapists that played fast and loose with the schedule. It's clearly an error, as it was probably meant for the older therapist column on the schedule, which was right next to my column. I ask her about it, and she agrees that that's probably the case. However, there's no space on the older therapist schedule to take the woman today. The older therapist then looks at me and says, "Good luck. She's not my favorite client, but I'm the only one who can take her insurance." That prompted me to ask, "What's wrong with her?" She then responds, "Ugh, she's just a lot." Now, in those days, we didn't have the term Karen yet, so I could only guess what she meant. So I call the patient up and get voicemail. I then explain that there's been an error and she's not supposed to be on my schedule, and there's two options. Option number 1, we can reschedule for another day with older therapist. Option number 2, she can pay cash price for an hour massage and pay out of pocket to see me today. I also apologize on the recording a couple of times and trip over myself doing so because honestly, I hate disappointing my patients. This is one of the few jobs in the world where your customers are nearly always happy to see you. And I wouldn't survive in retail. I'm too fragile. My skin is not thick. Blessings upon those of you who can slug it out there. So I hang up and wait to hear back. I go about my day, do a few massages, and all is well. Until one of the receptionists comes back to our area with a sour face. And she says, "Hey, heads up, you got incoming." Puzzled, I say, "What?" She replies, "Your patient, Karen Karenson, just tore poor Krista a new one because she thought she wasn't going to get a massage today. We saw she was correct, and there's an error on the schedule, and she lost her dang mind, screaming at Krista until she cried." Hearing that, I was shocked. I always thought Krista was super tough, but dang, if she was crying, what was in store for me? I have no chance. I'm suddenly very glad that our other receptionist came back to give me a warning. She's a good egg. She says to me, we ended up giving her a free massage for today to make up for it. Now, it was technically our bad, but I was internally rolling my eyes. If it were up to me, anyone who treated the staff that belligerently should be fired as a client or patient. But alas, I'm not in charge, and the boss doctor loved himself some patient retention, so we're doing this instead. So with that, I go comfort Krista and apologize and said it was me that left the message, and I tried to be polite. Krista said that she knows I did my best, but she's pretty bummed for the rest of the day. And don't worry, she got a lot of positive, reaffirming affection from the doctors and the staff. The front staff was tight like that. With that aside, I gird myself, gulping, wondering what's coming down the pipe. So Karen arrives, and she comes back to our area of the office, which was way in the back. And to my great surprise, she's like 99% of my patients, and she's oh so happy to see me. She looks like your typical Karen. She's got an asymmetrical bob haircut, rotund, dressed in those thin, swishy sweaters, and I'm playing this interaction by ear, knowing that this woman had just popped off at Krista like the world was ending, and it was her fault. But now she wore a smug, self-satisfied smirk that made me very nervous. I step up and decide to introduce myself and say, "Hi, I'm Anonymous, and I'll be your massage therapist for today. Can you tell me about how your body's doing and what we're working on today?" The woman breezes past the question and she decides to brag instead. She says to me, "Well, you wouldn't have to be my massage therapist today if those idiot girls up front could do their damn jobs. Could you believe that one of them called me up and left a message demanding that I pay my hard-earned money for a damn appointment today? I only come here because you guys take my insurance. Ugh, some people. I gave them a piece of my mind and then some. You can't mess with me, you know." Well, I wasn't about to correct her and tell her it was me that called her up. Apparently, I sound different on the phone, and Karen didn't recognize my voice. Thank goodness. Correcting her also wouldn't do any good anyway. Poor Krista, the toughest girl that I know, was already yelled at and cried. I have no chance. I'll cry 100%, so I just let her believe it, I thought to myself. She then flashes a mischievous smirk and humble brag saying, "They gave me a free massage today to make up for their mistake. I hope that won't affect how you get paid." Now it didn't, since it wasn't my error, but knowing we weren't going to get paid for all this trouble either didn't sit well in my stomach. So with that, we got down to work, and I hated every minute of it for a variety of reasons. Number 1, she was one of those rare clients that came in for bragging rights, that she got a massage every single week. Wannabe rich people behavior. This was a clinic, a highly in-demand one at that, who often treated car accidents and work injury victims. This woman was taking up a rare open spot on a schedule that could have gone to someone actually injured. Now, I don't mind people using their insurance benefits for preventative maintenance, but she literally told me that she doesn't need massages and she gets weekly massages to brag to her friends. Go to a fancy spa if you really want something to brag about. Number 2, The Karen was so smug about this, like the cat who ate the canary. But I couldn't retaliate with deep pressure or anything because A, it's unethical and I wouldn't do it anyway, and B, she's the type to sue, for sure. So I had to grin and bear it. It was only 1 hour. I tried to stay quiet, so I could at least give her the cold shoulder. Normally, I'm a chatty Cathy and very open and cartoonishly optimistic in my conversations with patients, trying to keep up their hopes for recovery high. The woman doesn't let me though, and she starts talking about her daughter. And this, folks, is where I truly knew what a Karen she was. She tells me that her daughter wanted to do sport A, but Karen forced her to do sport B, that her daughter hated because it was more entertaining to Karen herself, as she hates watching boring sports. Hearing her say that, I was speechless. I literally thought to myself, there is no person in my life that's more selfish than the person under my hands right this moment. Like literally, she re-navigated the course of her child's whole life and experiences for her own amusement. However, I could do nothing to interfere or get pro-revenge or anything. I had to let karma take its course. The Lord works in mysterious ways. So I finished the massage, and Karen looks at me right in the eyes and said to me, "Good job," like I was a dog or something that performed a trick, and I felt icky having to touch her. Well, it's very karmically satisfying to know that not but a few months later, we stopped taking her insurance entirely because it was too bothersome to deal with, having too many hoops to jump through to get us paid. When I heard that, I ran to the older therapist and I gleefully told her, "You know what this means? No more Karen Karenson." We high-fived and celebrated, mostly for the older therapist who would never have to suffer her presence ever again. You gotta buy your massages at full price out of pocket now, Karen. Oh, nothing is worse than having to deal with and provide services to someone who's such an a-hole, guys. Like that hour must have felt like forever to OP, but good riddance. Some people are truly the worst. Alright, so this happened 3 years ago in late August, I think. I was at my local nude beach, soaking up what sun was left at this time of year in the UK. I was listening to the birds and the waves and watching the trawlers go by and the seagulls chasing them. A few pleasure cruises went by following the coastline, and it was a very nice quiet day. It felt nice to have the sun and the cool breeze on my body, making me feel warm, peaceful, and calm. Again, relaxing day. And then out of nowhere, I hear footsteps coming down the stone steps from the main footpath. Again, no worries. People sometimes came down here. And some were nudists like me, and sometimes they weren't, but they said hello and went about their day, leaving me in peace, no fuss made. But this day, enter the entitled mother and chill daughter. Stage left. I can hear the woman say, "Oh, well, this is a nice spot. I can't imagine why no one else is here." She then sees me naked, sunbathing, and she says, "Oh, no, we can't be here. There's a naked man." At that I respond, "Oh, I'm sorry. I can cover up while you walk by me." At that the Karen says, "No, ugh, you shouldn't be naked in public. That's disgusting. Are you some kind of pervert or something? Put some clothes on." Me, rolling my eyes, say, "Miss, it's perfectly legal to be nude here, as it's a nude beach. I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm simply minding my own business, enjoying the sun, just the same as you are." Karen says, "But I'm not naked. My daughter doesn't need to see that," gesturing at my naked body. I then look over at the chill daughter who's taking photos of the sea and the sky, and I say, "Well, she doesn't seem bothered by me at all." The Karen goes on and says, "You are a pervert. Put your clothes on right now. There's people around here." At this point, I'm thinking to myself, I'm a pervert. You're the one hanging around a nude beach looking at a naked man, not me, lady. Out loud, I say, "I'll cover up until you and your daughter have gone by." Karen says, "No, you will get dressed or I will call the police. You are disgusting." The chill daughter then intervenes and says, "For goodness sake, Mom, leave him alone. It's legal. He's not doing anything wrong. He's not hurting anyone. It's a nude beach. Calling the police will just make things worse for all of us, so leave him." The Karen screams, "No," and she proceeds to call the police on me anyways. At this point, I'm fishing around in my bag for a copy of the laws on nudism in the UK that I carry with me at all times. You can also find it on the British Naturism website, by the way. And I say to her, "Miss, hello, excuse me, please, before you call the police, read this in full." I then hand it to Karen, and Karen throws it to the ground, and she wanders up off the steps to wait for police. The chill daughter picks it up and reads a few paragraphs of it before handing it back and running after her mother. So to cut it short, 20 minutes later, the police show up. I throw my towel over myself and tie it around me while chatting to the officer. In the end, the woman's escorted away to the main footpath and she's given a fine for wasting police time. And I'm just asked to ignore anyone like that if it happens again. The officers leave and I unwrap my towel and I sit back down again. Should I have thrown sand at her face and run away? No, as much as we would all have loved to hear that you did, OP, definitely not. You never want to be the first to start something. Wow, leave it up to a Karen to walk along a nude beach and call police on people for being fully nude, right? Like, my goodness, some people truly believe that the world revolves around them. And honestly, I'm glad the police ended up reprimanding her for wasting their time though. Like, I can't imagine what was going on in the officer's mind when he shows up at that nude beach and Karen says, "Arrest that man for being naked." Like, what in the world? So for some context, I work as a dishwasher for a restaurant somewhere in Ohio. A few months after I joined the restaurant, a new server got hired on. Her name will be Peppa in this story. The girl was the most entitled brat that I've ever known. Her parents owned a successful restaurant down the street from us, so I guess that's where she got her entitlement from. And I have no idea why she didn't work there instead of the restaurant I work at. The girl was a college student at the time to study medical stuff. Like, seriously, no patient would allow you to be their doctor because you act so bitchy and you're useless. The girl would often stand there and play on her iPhone or iPad instead of doing work, leaving the other servers and me to do her work. She won't clean up, she won't put cups away, she would throw crap everywhere, she was mean to customers, she's lazy, she often made others work for her, and she would get into fights with other workers. Her excuse for everything was, "I don't have time," and she swears a lot too. I always dreaded working with her. An assistant manager of ours at the time did little to nothing to get her to stop. A few months in 2023, he was fired because he started crap and he stole money. The tipping point of Peppa and I's hatred towards each other was one Sunday in the beginning of 2023, when I had to work a double due to the GM's laziness. That day went fine until she arrived and she asked me to bus tables for her because she wasn't feeling like working today and she didn't have time, which means she didn't want to do anything and get paid for it. Me, being tired and angry at her for being a lazy person at the time, said, "No, you do have time and you will do your damn job like all of us." And she was mad that I said that and she screams, "F you and F off." And I'm thinking, grow up, you're 19, act like one. I wish I would have said those words. She then came back handing me more stuff and saying something about wanting to get someone fired. And I thought she meant me, and I said, "I want to get you fired." Once again, she said F you and F off. But that wasn't it though. When I went out to drop off silverware, I stood behind her and our other assistant manager, which is my mom's best friend. Peppa got so aggressive that she and I got into a fight right in front of the customers. She starts swinging at me. The assistant manager friend stopped me and pulled me away. She said if I did it again, I would get a write-up. I then started to break down and cry. I threw my apron on the dish tank counter and grabbed my stuff and cried as I ran out the back door. I sat outside for a while and I cried so hard. It wasn't my fault. The assistant manager that I mentioned earlier came out to see if I was alright. I told them what happened, and they and a few other people chewed Peppa out for making me break down and cry. Peppa's way to apologize or to suck up was to bring everyone a smoothie. I thought she learned her lesson, but no, she was still an entitled, mean woman. A few months later, she got into a couple of huge fights with some of the nighttime servers, where the minor host ended up with a bloodied hand in one of them. My mom, who was made the manager after the stupid lazy GM left, told both of them to leave. Peppa argued with my mom about it, and my mom threatened to call the cops, which she did, and Peppa left. The next day, Peppa came and she basically told my mom that she quits because what my mom did was an a-hole move. I didn't see her, but I got the news from my mom. I was so happy and free from the trouble. Last I heard about Peppa is she works at another restaurant in another part of town where I worked. I made a self-promise that I don't want to eat at that restaurant because I don't want to run into her and cause a huge commotion. Same as the mail server. He works at a restaurant right across from where she works. I'm glad that she's out of my life. Honestly, Peppa should have been fired pretty much the week after she was hired, guys. Like, maybe even the same day. Like, it boggles my mind that she was employed there for so long because she didn't work. She harassed staff, she started numerous fights with people, and again, she didn't work. Like, was she dating the manager at the time or what? I have no idea, guys. And I love how her I quit moment was because OP's mom called the cops on her. And wow, the nerve to call that an a-hole move after she caused the fight. I moved out on my own in 2013, and I moved into an old house converted to a 2-floor apartment directly across from my future in-laws. The downstairs neighbors were loud. They blared their music at all hours, and yes, all of the hours. They also wouldn't cut the grass or take the trash out on our shared schedule. They were crappy neighbors, but they never bothered me directly. The guy was actually pretty chill when he was sober, and he would turn the music down a little when I texted him. He was okay until his girlfriend Karen moved in. Now add shouting matches to the mix, and all of a sudden, my request to turn down the music makes him turn it up. I can barely walk on my super thin floor without her banging on the ceiling with a broom. Now I was okay, since I'm a heavy sleeper and I could sleep through anything. But when my wife moved in, I quickly found out that she was quite the opposite. My wife needed the fan on, blackout curtains so zero light comes through, and zero sounds other than the fan. You get the idea. I told her we can't expect them to remain silent when she's ready for bed. We need to be reasonable, but the wall-rattling music needs to stop during the night. She hated it during the day, but I told her there's nothing we can do then, so she would have to go to her parents' house a lot during the day. I talked to neighbor guy, and he said, yeah man, that's cool. But it turns out the Karen girlfriend wasn't having it, and his attitude changed to, yeah, well it's our house too, and you can go F yourself if you think you can tell us what to do, and you can move out if you don't like it. Something definitely had to change once my wife was pregnant and then the baby came. So I did the only thing I could do. I fought fire with fire. I could only report them for noise after 11 p.m. I now forget the morning hour when the noise could start, but I believe it was 9 a.m. My dad had these huge old concert speakers in his garage. Professional grade, black leather bound, 5 feet tall, 3 feet wide, and a pretty nice vintage stereo/amp. My dad had 2 speakers, but my place was so small that sadly I only had room for one. We replaced our coffee table with this thing, and we laid it face down into our thin office carpet. I was tired of this idiot's crap tunes, and I tested the speaker when they weren't home, and holy cow. I had to take everything down from tables, counters, and shelves because they would shake off. So with that, I was giddy like a kid with a new Christmas toy. 9 a.m. every morning after that, I turned it on when I left for work, and I got my wife up to send her to her parents. I would come home from work and hang out at her parents until it was close to bedtime. I would then shut the speaker off at 11 p.m. and they resisted for 3 days. On day number 2, I found a pile of human or animal crap on my doorstep, but it didn't faze me. I cycled between marching music, Christian preaching clips, and the most stupid songs that you could think of, and this poor house rattled in ways that I didn't think was possible. The vibrations from a sine wave would make your vision blur. I eventually got a text from the guy that read, "Sorry man, you can stop now." And I did not. He needed a few more days to let it sink in. Plus, I had so much fun putting it together. They complained to the police and the landlord, but there was nothing they could do since I wasn't doing anything wrong. After that, I didn't even hear music during the time of peace to follow. It was so quiet. They would build up their courage to try again every few weeks when I wasn't home, but my wife was. I then showed her how to tame the beast so she could let it loose while I was away. I had to give them a spanking every now and then, but they learned. And let me tell ya, they were so happy when we moved out. Guys, I freaking love this. Fight fire with fire, right? And honestly, if I were the neighbor, I would be driven crazy, guys. And I love how there was absolutely nothing that neighbor could have done, as OP taught him a lesson that was well within the law. Bravo, OP. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our slash entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today. If you did, hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you're not subscribed so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/I don't work here lady episode where a Karen tries to ruin a customer's life for not obeying her, and it backfires hard on her. Check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.